The light from the phone screen stabbed at my eyes. I stared at that photo for a solid 30 seconds. Not at the content. I'd taken in the content at first glance. I was waiting for the emotion to hit. Anger, disgust, devastation. Anything. But nothing came. I felt hollowed out, like someone had scooped everything out of me and left behind a single thought. Of course. The photo was of my wife, Soo-won. She lay on her side on a hotel bed, the blanket pulled up to her collarbone, her bare shoulder exposed. The light was dim, just the bedside lamp glowing. I could see a glass of red wine on the nightstand and a half-open pack of cigarettes. Her hand rested on someone else's waist. I knew that hand. The middle finger wore the wedding ring I'd given her. The person beside her showed only the back of a head and half a shoulder. Short hair, dark nail polish. A woman. I didn't have the number saved, but I knew who it was. Lindsay, Soo-won's so-called best friend. 2 months ago, Soo-won had mentioned her once, said she'd been acting secretive lately, saying things with a weird edge. I hadn't thought much of it. Beneath the photo was a single line of text. Your wife's having a pretty good time behind your back, Jia. Jia was me. Everyone called me Jia. I zoomed in on the photo, studying Soo-won's face. Her eyes were closed. A faint smile curved the corner of her mouth. Her cheeks were flushed. She'd clearly been drinking. She didn't look coerced. She didn't look like she'd lost control. It was just that expression. Relaxed. Enjoying herself. I'd known Soo-won for 11 years. Married to her for 6. I had never once seen that expression directed at me. My finger hovered over the screen for a long time. I wanted to type something back, but nothing felt right. Ask her when she took the photo? Ask why Soo-won was in a hotel? Ask who that person was? Pointless. The answer was written all over her face. I took a screenshot and saved it to my encrypted photo album. Then I flipped my phone face down on the table and kept eating my dinner, long gone cold. A layer of white grease had congealed over the braised pork. The rice was hard as sand. I chewed one mouthful after another, grinding it down for a long time before I could swallow. The TV was still on in the living room, the volume dialed down to a murmur. Some variety show was playing canned laughter. The ceiling light was a harsh, sickly white, spilling over the mess on the coffee table.
Soo-won's makeup.
Express delivery boxes. A half-empty glass of water left out overnight. Before night, I'd looked at that clutter and thought it smelled like a life being lived. Now it looked like a landfill. 10:30. Soo-won wasn't home. 11. Still not home. I opened WeChat and sent a message to my mother-in-law. Mom, you asleep? The reply came instantly. No, watching TV. What's up? I didn't respond. Not because I meant to be rude. I was trying to figure out how to say it. My mother-in-law was the kind of woman who would move heaven and earth to protect her cub. Soo-won was the daughter she'd had laid in life, the youngest after 3 older brothers, the one the whole family had raised cradled in their palms. If I came right out and said your daughter is cheating on me, her first reaction wouldn't be to ask Soo-won what happened. It would be to ask me what I had done. I thought about it for a moment. Then I forwarded the photo and added a line. Your daughter's real busy. Sends photos even when she's sleeping with someone. The second I sent it, I regretted it. Not because I was afraid of saying the wrong thing. Because dragging my mother-in-law into this was the wrong move, period. But my thumb had already hit send. No taking it back. I stared at the screen. The other side showed typing for a long time. Typing and typing and typing. Nothing came through. 15 minutes later, my mother-in-law's house exploded. That's not a metaphor. Soo-lay, Soo-won's third brother, said it himself. When he called, the background was nothing but chaos. My mother-in-law was crying. My father-in-law was shouting. In between, the sound of something shattering. Soo-lay's voice was low and tight, like he'd stepped out onto the balcony to make the call. Jia, what the hell did you send my mom? She's trying to grab a knife and go after Soo-won right now. My dad's holding her back. They're about to start swinging at each other. I said, go look at your mom's phone. I can't. She locked herself in the bedroom with it. Just tell me straight. I didn't say anything. Sulei's voice cracked with frustration.
Fuck, just say it.
Is Suwon in trouble? Your sister's doing just fine, I said. Got plenty of time to go out and have fun. Just no time to come home. Can you stop talking in riddles for one goddamn second? I hung up. It wasn't that I wanted to keep him in suspense. I genuinely couldn't say the words. How was I supposed to tell Sule that his sister had gone to a hotel with another woman? With his temper, his first reaction wouldn't be to question whether the photo was real. He'd think I was trying to smear his whole family. My phone started buzzing again. Sule called 3 more times. I didn't pick up. Then my mother-in-law's number flashed on the screen. I didn't pick that up either. Finally, a text message from her. Jia, you're my son-in-law. I've always treated you like my own son. Tell me the truth. Is that photo photoshopped? I typed back, no. Where is Suwon? I don't know. Where are you right now? Home. Wait there. I'm coming over now. I wanted to say, don't come. There's nothing for me to say even if you do. But she didn't give me time to type. The phone rang again. I picked up. It was my father-in-law's voice on the other end. The old man had clearly been drinking. His tongue was thick and clumsy. Jia, if you dare bully my daughter, I will make your life a living hell. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. My father-in-law heard it and went nuclear. Do you think this is funny? You motherf. I hung up and switched my phone to Do Not Disturb. The living room fell quiet. Just the variety show on the TV, laughing soundlessly now. I sat on the couch, staring at the photo of Suwon on the coffee table. Our wedding photo. In a crystal frame. She was wearing a white wedding dress, leaning against my shoulder, grinning like an idiot. She'd gotten drunk that day, kicked off her high heels in the hotel hallway, and demanded I carry her. I carried her up 3 flights of stairs. She whispered in my ear, Jia, I married you. I'm yours for the rest of my life. It was so good. So good it felt like a lie. I picked up my phone again and opened the chat window with Lindsay. I looked at the photo once more. There was a detail I'd missed earlier. Suwon's ring finger on her left hand. In the reflection off the wedding band, I could see the hotel chandelier. The light fixture looked familiar. I'd seen it somewhere before. I thought for a moment, and it clicked. The Hilton. Executive King Room. I'd booked one for the company annual meeting last year, which meant this photo wasn't taken at some cheap motel. It was a proper hotel room, deliberately booked. I scrolled up through the chat history. Had Lindsay sent anything before this?
No.
This was the first message. Why send it now? Why not sooner? What did any of this have to do with Suwon's description of her being secretive? Too many questions. Not a single answer. At 1 in the morning, I heard the door lock turn. Suwon walked in, saw the living room light still on, and paused in surprise. Why aren't you asleep yet? She was still wearing the beige trench coat she'd left the house in that morning. Her hair was loose. Her face had a faint flush to it. She didn't look like someone who'd just woken up. She looked like someone whose drinking session had just wound down. I said, waiting for you. What for? She changed into slippers and tossed her bag onto the couch. I told you I was having dinner with Z tonight. Said it might run late.
Till now?
Yeah, we got to talking. She headed toward the bathroom. You go on to bed. I'm gonna take a shower. I asked, how's Lindsay doing lately?
So one post. Just barely.
Just a fraction of a second, and then she recovered smoothly. She's fine. Why are you suddenly asking about her? Just wondering.
Oh.
She pushed open the bathroom door. She's seeing someone new. A guy 3 years younger than her.
Did I tell you about that? No.
I'll tell you tomorrow. Too tired right now. The bathroom door closed. The sound of running water started up. I stayed where I was on the couch, replaying the last few seconds in my head. When I'd asked about Lindsay, Suwon had flinched. Almost imperceptibly. Her shoulders had tightened for just an instant, then relaxed. A normal person wouldn't have caught that detail. But I caught it. Because I wasn't just living life alongside her anymore. I was observing her. That realization hit my stomach like a physical blow. I'd been telling myself I was waiting for the emotion to surface. But it already had. It just hadn't turned into rage or collapse. It had turned into something else entirely. A cold, almost clinical clarity. Like my brain had flipped a switch into a different mode. Survival mode. Soo-won came out of the bathroom in her pajamas, toweling her hair as she walked toward the bedroom. Passing by me, she leaned down and kissed my cheek.
Good night.
Her lips were cold. The shampoo smell was overpowering. I didn't move. After the bedroom door closed, I picked up my phone and looked at the photo again. This time I noticed something else. There was a timestamp in the bottom right corner. Very small, but legible if you zoomed in. The photo was taken last night. Friday night. Last night, Soo-won had told me she had to work late. She got home at 11, said the project proposal had gone through 5 rounds of revisions, said she was exhausted. I heated up soup for her. She took 2 sips and said she had no appetite, then curled up on the couch and scrolled through her phone until midnight. Last night, she had been at a hotel with Lindsay. And tonight, she had been out having dinner with Lindsay again. 2 nights in a row. The same best friend. But that same best friend had just sent me an intimate photo of herself with Soo-won. I stared at the timestamp, and a thought surfaced in my mind. If Lindsay was the one taking the photo, then whose hand was that resting on Soo-won in the picture? There were 2 hands visible in the frame. One on the other person's waist. That was Soo-won's. The other was partially hidden beneath Soo-won's body, only a few fingers visible. Dark nail polish. That hand couldn't belong to Lindsay. Taking a photo requires both hands, which meant there were at least 3 people in that hotel room.
So 1.
The woman with the dark nail polish, and Lindsay behind the camera. Unless. I pulled up Lindsay's social media and scrolled through her selfies. Her nails. Always a pale pink. Every single photo. I stared at that detail for a long time. Then I put the phone down, turned off the light, and lay there in the darkness with my eyes open. Something about this was wrong.
2.
My mother-in-law arrived faster than I expected. At 2 a.m, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find her standing on the doorstep. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes were red. She clutched her phone in her hand, knuckles bone white. She was wearing an old flower print blouse, pajama pants, and cotton slippers. Clearly, she'd rushed straight out of bed and come over. No one was behind her. Where is Soo-won? She demanded. Asleep. Asleep? Her voice shot up an octave. She still has the nerve to sleep? She pushed past me into the living room and flipped on every light. I squinted against the sudden glare. She stood by the coffee table, scanning the room, and her gaze landed on the wedding photo. The corner of her mouth twitched. That photo, she said, turning to face me. Explain it to me.
Now.
I leaned against the wall, hands in my pockets, trying to look like a man who hadn't just been struck by lightning. Mom, you saw the photo. I don't have much else to say. Is that Soo-won in the picture? You don't recognize her? I'm asking you. Is that Soo-won? I looked at her. My mother-in-law was shaking. Her whole body trembled, not from cold but from something seeping out from deep in her bones. Her lips quivered. Her eyes brimmed with tears that refused to fall. I said, "It's her." My mother-in-law closed her eyes and drew a long breath. When she opened them again, her expression had changed. She no longer looked like the fiercely protective mother hen I knew. She looked like a woman far more composed than I'd ever given her credit for. Who is that person? I don't know. Did you look into it?
No. Why not?
I said, Mom, your daughter went to a hotel room with someone else, and you want me to investigate? On what grounds? I'm her husband, not her father. The words hit her like a slap. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She stood there for a moment, frozen, then sank onto the couch. She picked up the glass of water left out overnight, glanced at it, and set it back down.
Yeah.
Her voice went soft all of a sudden. Tell Mom the truth. Has something been going on between you two lately? Nothing. Are you sure? I'm sure. Then why would she? I don't know. My mother-in-law stared at me like she was trying to find a crack in my face. I didn't flinch. I let her look. I genuinely didn't know why Soo-won had done this. On that point, my conscience was clean. After about 10 seconds, she looked away. Wake Soo-won up.
Now? Now.
I hesitated. Truth was, I didn't want to. Not because I was afraid of embarrassing Suwon. Because I felt like this wasn't my mess to detonate. Sending the photo to my mother-in-law had already been monumentally stupid. Dragging Suwon out of bed for a face-to-face confrontation wouldn't just be stupid. It would be self-destruction. But my mother-in-law was waiting. I walked to the bedroom door and pushed it open. The light was off. Suwon lay on her side, the blanket pulled to her shoulder, breathing evenly. She was sleeping deeply. Probably the alcohol.
Suwon.
No response.
Suwon.
I raised my voice. She stirred, turned over groggily. What is it? Your mom is here. The words hit like a switch being thrown. Suwon's eyes flew open. She sat bolt upright, frozen for 2 full seconds, then turned to look at me. What? Your mother. In the living room. Suwon's face went pale. She didn't ask why her mother had come. She didn't ask what had happened. Her first instinct was to reach for her phone on the nightstand. She unlocked the screen, saw the messages from her mother, and her expression shifted. Confusion gave way to panic. Panic gave way to something I had never seen on her face before.
Fear.
Not the flustered fear of someone caught red-handed. It looked more like she knew something I didn't. What did you tell my mom? Her voice was tight. Go look at her phone yourself. Suwon threw off the blanket and ran out barefoot. I heard their voices from the living room. Suwon called out Mom, and then my mother-in-law's voice came, low and controlled, but I caught the words. That woman with you.
Who is she?
Silence. A long, suffocating silence. Then Suwon said something I will remember for the rest of my life. She said, Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. She said it, right in front of me. My mother-in-law shoved the phone in her face. Is this person in the photo you? Suwon glanced at the screen. Her expression didn't change. No shock. No panic.
No scam.
Just the look of someone who had known this photo existed all along. Yes, she said. But it doesn't mean anything. My mother-in-law's hand shook with rage. You're lying half-naked in bed with someone, and it doesn't mean anything?
Suwon looked at me then.
That glance carried so many things I couldn't parse. Anger. Grievance. Something I couldn't read at all. Yeah, you called Mom over just to humiliate me?
I didn't call her, I said.
She came on her own. You sent her that kind of photo. What's the difference? So you're saying I shouldn't have sent it? I'm saying maybe you could act like an adult for once. If you have a problem with me, say it to my face. Don't drag the elderly into it. She said this with such righteous indignation that for a moment I almost wondered if I was the one in the wrong. My mother-in-law looked stunned, clearly not expecting her daughter to turn the tables like this. She looked from Suwon to me and back again, her lips trembling. Then just say it, she said. Who is that person? Suwon bit her lip and said nothing. Asked you a question. My mother-in-law's voice rose again.
Who is that woman?
Suwon's eyes reddened. Not the guilty red of someone caught in a lie. The wronged red of someone being falsely accused. She said, Mom, stay out of this. If I don't stay out of it, who will? Your father is at home ready to grab a cleaver. At those words, Suwon's tears finally fell. She didn't wipe them away. She just let them stream down her face, but her voice stayed eerily steady. Mom, go home. I'll explain everything tomorrow.
Explain now. I can't right now. Why not?
Suwon fell silent again. She glanced at me. There was a plea in that look. Not a plea for forgiveness. A plea for me to stop asking questions. I didn't understand. I genuinely did not understand. If you've been unfaithful and you've been caught, you should cry, you should scream, you should beg me to forgive you, you should threaten divorce. Any one of those reactions I could have understood. But Suwon's reaction? Evasion. Refusing to let me know the truth. Choosing to let me believe the worst rather than tell me who that person was. That didn't add up. My mother-in-law kept pressing, and Suwon kept refusing to answer. The standoff dragged on for nearly 20 minutes. It was finally broken when my father-in-law called, bellowing into the phone. Are you coming home or not? Only then did my mother-in-law leave. Before she went, she grabbed my hand, her fingernails digging into the back of it. Yeah, Mom believes you.
I will get to the bottom of this. The door closed.
The living room held only Soo-won and me. She stood by the entryway, head lowered, hair falling forward to cover half her face. I waited for her to speak. She waited a long time. Finally, she said, "Yeah, I'm sorry." Sorry for what? Sorry you had to see that photo. Not sorry I did it. Sorry you saw the photo. I asked, "What exactly is your relationship with Lindsay?" Soo-won lifted her head and looked at me. Her eyes were red from crying, but her gaze was clear. So clear it held a kind of resolve I found utterly foreign. She said, "I can't tell you right now." "Why not?" "Because you'll do something stupid." I let out a hollow laugh. "What am I gonna do? Kill you? Worse than that." She said those words, turned around, walked back to the bedroom, and shut the door. I stood alone in the living room, feeling the whole situation veering off in a direction that made no sense. Soo-won had been unfaithful. Her best friend had sent me the evidence. My mother-in-law's household had gone nuclear. Soo-won admitted the person in the photo was her. But she said it didn't mean anything. She said she couldn't tell me right now. She said I'd do something stupid. If I hadn't heard it with my own ears, I'd have thought this was the plot of some trashy TV drama. But it was happening right in front of me. I sat back down on the couch, opened my phone, and looked at the photo again. The hand with the dark nail polish. Soo-won's profile. The hotel room. The wine and cigarettes on the nightstand. I stared at that pack of cigarettes for a long time. Soo-won didn't smoke. She had never smoked a cigarette in her life. But there was an open pack beside her on the nightstand. What did that mean? It meant the woman with the dark nail polish smoked. It meant they'd spent a long time together in that room. It meant this scene contained a whole universe of things I knew nothing about. I opened my chat window with Lindsay, typed a few words, then deleted them. In the end, I sent nothing at all, because a realization was settling over me. Lindsay had not sent me that photo to help me see Soo-won's true colors. She was helping me destroy Soo-won. She'd handed me the ammunition. She'd known who I would send it to. She'd known exactly what would happen next. Every step had been calculated. So, why would she do this? Soo-won's words echoed in my head. "You'll do something stupid." A chill crept down my spine. 3. I didn't sleep that night. Not from grief. My brain just wouldn't shut down. It was like someone had opened a 24-hour convenience store inside my skull, and every strange thought in the world was wandering the aisles. At 4 in the morning, I went to the kitchen to get a glass of water. I noticed a sticky note on the fridge. Soo-won's handwriting. "Remember to take your vitamins." It had been there for a week. I never peeled it off. Not because I forgot. Just couldn't be bothered. I peeled it off now, crumpled it into a ball, and tossed it in the trash. Then I fished it back out, smoothed it flat, and stuck it back on the fridge. I couldn't have explained why I did that if my life depended on it. At 5:30, before the sky had even begun to lighten, I heard the bedroom door open. Soo-won emerged, fully dressed, makeup on, showing absolutely no trace of the tears from a few hours earlier. She glanced at me as she crossed the living room, said nothing, and headed straight for the shoe cabinet by the door. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Work. It's Saturday." Her hand paused for just a beat on the strap of her shoe. "I'm going to the office. Need to revise a proposal. Dinner with Lindsay last night. Overtime to fix a proposal tonight." "Soo-won, don't you think your schedule's getting a little too full?" She straightened up and looked at me. Only one floor lamp was on in the living room, the light a dim amber. Her face was half in shadow, her expression unreadable. "Yeah," she said. "You never used to ask me these things. I never used to have to. Because what you told me used to be the truth." She bit her lip. Her eyes reddened again, but this time she didn't cry. She took a deep breath, seeming to reach some kind of decision, then walked over, crouched in front of me, and cupped my face in both hands.
"Just give me a little more time."
"How long?" "A week." "And after a week?" "After a week, I'll tell you everything." I looked at her. There was the glisten of tears in her eyes, but not the kind about to spill over. The kind that had already been cried dry, leaving only the raw tracks behind. I said, "Okay."
Soo-won left.
The moment the door clicked shut, the whole house felt empty. Not because she was gone, Because that single word, okay, meant I'd accepted her terms. It meant I'd wait a week. It meant I'd spend the next 7 days pretending nothing had happened. But I couldn't do that. I grabbed my phone and sent Sue Lei a message. Has your sister ever mentioned someone named Lindsay to you?
Sue Lei didn't reply.
The guy never read his messages. If you had something to say, you called. Sure enough, 3 minutes later, my phone rang. His voice was hoarse. He clearly hadn't slept either. What the hell are you going on about at the crack of dawn? Do you know Lindsay?
Who?
Suwon's best friend. Suwon's got a million best friends. How am I supposed to keep track? What's going on? I said, do you think your sister could cheat on someone? Silence on the other end. Sue Lei had a filthy mouth and a soft heart. He'd curse Suwon out worse than anyone, but if an outsider dared say one bad word about her, he'd fight them to the death. The silence wasn't hesitation. It was him clamping down on his temper.
Yeah.
His voice dropped. What exactly did you send my mom last night? Ask her yourself. She won't tell me. The only thing she said was your sister has done wrong, and then she started crying. I couldn't get anything else out of her. I closed my eyes. Suwon had wronged me. My mother-in-law had said that much. But she hadn't said how. She'd protected the most critical piece of information. The person was a woman. She didn't tell Sue Lei that because she knew that if Sue Lei found out the other party was a woman, the situation would become 10 times more complicated. Not because of gender. Because Sue Lei would go straight after that woman. And who that woman was, even I still didn't know.
Yeah.
Sue Lei's voice came through the phone. Tell me the truth. Are you thinking about divorce? I thought about it.
I don't know, I said.
What do you mean you don't know? It means I don't know. Sue Lei went quiet again. He was probably chewing on my words, trying to figure out how many layers were buried in them. But with the way his brain worked, he'd max out at 3. I'm hesitating. I'm going soft. Or I'm making a threat. None of the above. I said I didn't know because I truly didn't know. Suwon cheating on me should have been simple. She betrayed me. I get angry. I get heartbroken. I get a divorce. A straight road. Anyone could walk it. But that road was blocked now. Because I didn't know what she had betrayed. Suwon lay in a bed with another woman. That was the sum total of the facts. But what did that fact actually mean? An emotional affair? A physical one? Something else entirely? There was no kiss in the photo.
No se gesti pose.
Just a side-lying posture and a hand resting on a waist. Honestly, if it were someone else's situation, I might have dismissed it as close friends goofing around. But Lindsay had taken that photo. And Lindsay had sent it to me. Which meant that the moment she snapped that picture, she was already scheming. Scheming what? One possibility surfaced. Lindsay had feelings for Suwon. She took the photo, sent it to Suwon's husband, aiming to destroy Suwon's marriage so she could step into the wreckage. Logical. Fit human nature. Fit the facts. But it didn't explain one thing. Why wouldn't Suwon just say who the other woman was? If it really were Lindsay in the photo, Suwon's immediate instinct should have been to point at her and say, my best friend is setting me up, I have nothing to do with her. You're being played. That's the first thing any innocent person would do. But Suwon hadn't done that. She'd rather take the blame than expose the other woman. That woman was not Lindsay. And then a possibility hit me, so chilling it made my scalp prickle. The reason Suwon wouldn't say was because if she did, I would go after that person. And I would do something stupid. In her eyes, I was more dangerous than the woman she'd gone to a hotel with. What did that mean? It meant that person might not be anyone I knew. It meant that person held some kind of special status, and if it came to light, the fallout would be far worse than a simple affair. Like what, for instance? My phone buzzed, cutting the thought short. Lindsay had sent a second message.
Not a photo this time.
A block of text. Yeah, I know you've already forwarded the photo. Don't rush. This is just the beginning. Your wife's situation is far more complicated than you think. If you want the truth, 3 o'clock this afternoon. South City Starbucks. I'll be waiting. I stared at the message. My hand was shaking. Not from fear. From sheer rage. This person. She had destroyed my marriage, and now she was dangling the truth like bait, summoning me to a meeting. What did she want? To feed me more revelations? To watch me fall apart? I didn't want to go, but I had to go, because whatever I could pry out of Lindsay's mouth, I'd get it a hell of a lot faster than digging it out of Soo-won's. I sent Soo-won a message. Lindsay asked to meet me this afternoon. Soo-won's reply was instant. Don't go.
Why?
She'll destroy you. She already has. Soo-won didn't respond to that. A few minutes passed. Then another message came through. Jia, please. Don't go.
Give me 1 week.
I'll tell you everything. I didn't reply. I screenshotted Lindsay's message and saved it to my encrypted album. Then I started searching for every scrap of information I could find on Lindsay online. Social media, blogs, photo sharing platforms. I dug up everything available. She didn't have many public accounts, and what she posted was utterly mundane.
Food.
Travel.
Selfies.
Standard young urban professional content. But one thing caught my attention. In all her selfies, not a single one featured Soo-won. A woman who claimed to be Soo-won's best friend had 0 photos of them together on any social platform. That wasn't normal. Soo-won loved taking pictures. She snapped photos with everyone she went out with. Her phone was crammed with shots of her and various friends. But I couldn't recall ever seeing Lindsay in any of them, which meant Soo-won had never taken a photo with her. Or she had, but never posted them.
Why?
I kept scrolling. Back to a post from last year. Lindsay had shared an article about psychology with a single line of commentary. Some people, you can't save them. You can only wait for them to wake up on their own. The post was timestamped at 3 in the morning. The thought that came to me then was simple. If Soo-won was the person she was talking about, what exactly did Lindsay think Soo-won needed saving from? What was wrong with Soo-won that needed saving? I couldn't think of a single thing. Everything about Soo-won was normal. Stable job, decent income, harmonious family, attentive husband. She didn't drink too much. She had no gambling addiction, no depression, not a single reason for anyone to need to save her. Unless there were things I had never known. That thought lodged in my brain like a needle. I grabbed my car keys and headed out the door. Not to go to that meeting, to do something I should have done the moment I first saw that photo. Find out where Lindsay lived. I'd seen a photo on her social media taken from a balcony, with a recognizable landmark visible in the background. I cross-referenced it with Street View maps and narrowed it down to a specific apartment complex. Not too far. 20 minutes by car. I didn't go inside when I got there. I parked across the street and watched the entrance. I wasn't even sure what I was waiting for. Maybe I wanted to see what Lindsay looked like in person. Maybe I wanted to confirm what kind of relationship she actually had with Soo-won. Maybe I just didn't want to sit alone in that empty house. At 10:30, someone walked out of the complex. Short hair, sunglasses, white t-shirt, jeans. She pulled her phone out of her bag, glanced at it, and stood by the curb like she was waiting for someone. I suddenly realized that this person might not be Lindsay, because I had no idea what Lindsay looked like. Soo-won had never shown me a photo of her. I didn't even know her face. This woman could be Lindsay. She could also be a total stranger. But I had a powerful gut feeling. It was her. Because the moment she looked at her phone, mine vibrated. A third message from Lindsay. I know where you are. The blood in my veins turned to ice. I looked up. The woman was gone.
4.
My phone buzzed 3 more times. First message. You think I don't know where you live? Second message. Don't do anything unnecessary. It won't end well for you. Third message. 3 o'clock this afternoon. South City Starbucks. Come or don't. Your choice. I didn't respond. My hands were still on the steering wheel, knuckles white. I stared at the entrance to that apartment complex. The woman, whoever she was, whether or not she was Lindsay, had vanished. The morning light was still thin, and there weren't many pedestrians. The few people drifting in and out of the gate all looked unremarkable. How had she known where I was? There were a few cars parked across the street. I scanned them. No one visible inside. I checked my rearview mirror. No sign of anyone tailing me. I powered my phone off and back on, checking for tracking software. Nothing. The car's GPS was off. The only possibility left was that she didn't actually know where I was. That message was just a bluff. She'd sent the same thing to everyone, betting I'd spook. But Suwon had said Lindsay would destroy me. Suwon had also said she'd been acting secretive, saying things with a weird edge. Those two pieces of information clicked together in my mind and formed a blurry outline. Lindsay was not just some best friend, not just some third party. She was a person with initiative, with a plan, executing a deliberate strategy. And her target wasn't me. It was Suwon. I was just the tool she was using to strike at Suwon. That realization made me kill the engine and lean back in my seat, staring up through the sunroof. The sky was a dull, overcast gray, threatening rain that hadn't come. A thin layer of dust coated the windshield. Someone, probably a kid, had drawn a smiley face in it with a finger. I reached up and wiped it away. At 11:40, Su Lei called again. I got it out of her, he said, his voice heavy. My mom told me you sent a photo of Suwon in bed with some woman. I waited. Ja, are you sure that's Suwon? I'm sure. Who's the woman? I don't know. You motherf. Su Lei sucked in a breath and swallowed the rest of the curse.
Fine.
You don't know. So, what are you going to do about it? She asked me to wait a week. Wait for what? Wait for her to tell me the truth. Su Lei swore on the other end of the line. Are you out of your mind? She went to a hotel with someone else and you're giving her a week? You want to give her time to get her story straight with that woman? She said she'd tell me everything. Everything? What everything? Cheating is cheating. What else is there? I said, don't you think it's strange? Suwon cheated, but she won't admit it's cheating. She said it doesn't mean anything. Lindsay sent me the photo, but her goal wasn't to help me. It was to hurt Suwon. Your mom saw the photo, but she didn't hit Suwon. She said mom believes you. Everyone knows something I don't. Everyone's hiding it from me. Su Lei went quiet. For a long time. So long I thought he'd hung up.
Yeah.
His voice dropped even lower. Have you considered the possibility that Suwon didn't cheat? Then what about the photo? The photo's real. But maybe the situation isn't what you think. What do you mean? I don't know. But you're right. Everyone's hiding something from you. Even I can feel something's off. He didn't say anything else. He just hung up. I sat there in the car, turning Su Lei's last words over and over in my head. Suwon might not have cheated. Su Lei was a hard ass with a soft heart, but he wasn't stupid. If he felt something was wrong, odds were something was wrong. But he didn't know the truth either. Everyone only had a piece. My mother-in-law knew Suwon had done me wrong, but she didn't know who the other person was. Suwon knew the whole truth, but she refused to speak. Lindsay knew the whole truth, but she was using it as a bargaining chip. I was the only one who knew nothing. The one person who had the most right to know was the one being shut out. It felt exactly like a carefully constructed trap. And from the moment I'd received that photo, I'd already walked into it. At 2:30 in the afternoon, I arrived at the South City Starbucks. I didn't go inside. I parked on the street with a clear view through the window. It was a weekend afternoon. The place was busy. The seats by the window were all taken. The air inside smelled of coffee and sweet cream. I rolled down my window and lit a cigarette. I don't smoke. I keep a pack in the car for social occasions. But right then, I needed the nicotine to quiet the voice in my head that was about to detonate. At 2:50, a woman stepped out of a taxi. This time I got a clear look at her. Short hair, dark nail polish, white t-shirt, jeans. It was the same woman I'd seen walk out of the apartment complex that morning. She paused outside the coffee shop, glanced left and right, then walked straight in. She didn't go to the counter to order. She headed directly to the innermost corner table, facing the door, back to the wall. A pro. From that seat, she could see everyone. No one could come up behind her. I took a long drag of the cigarette, crushed it out in the ashtray, and pushed open the car door. When I walked into the coffee shop, she was looking down at her phone. I crossed the room and sat down across from her. She looked up and smiled. A very natural smile. Attractive, Even.
Yeah, she said.
You came. Lindsay?
Um.
I studied her. Late 20s. Her features weren't stunning, but they were pleasant. Her makeup was polished, but not heavy. What stood out most was the look in her eyes. A kind of unnerving certainty. That particular brand of smugness that says I know you better than you know yourself. What do you want to say? I got straight to the point. Don't rush. She flagged down a server and ordered an Americano for me. Have something to drink first. Let's take our time. I'm not here for coffee. I know what you're here for. She placed her phone on the table, screen down. You're here to ask me who Soo-won went to that hotel with.
I didn't speak.
But I can't tell you who it is. Because the moment I do, you'll do something stupid. Those words again. Soo-won had used the exact same ones.
What stupid thing?
Lindsay looked at me, and her expression turned dead serious. You'll kill that person. I said, you've been watching too many dramas. You think I'm joking? She leaned forward. Yeah, I know exactly what kind of man you are. Soo-won is your whole world. You'd throw your life away for her. If someone hurts Soo-won, you make them pay. But this time is different. The problem isn't you going after that person. The problem is what happens to Soo-won when you do. It'll destroy her completely.
Soo-won cheated.
She destroyed herself first. She didn't cheat. Those 3 words hit me like a bucket of ice water. What did you say? I said Soo-won didn't cheat. Lindsay enunciated each word slowly and clearly. That photo is real. Soo-won was in bed with that person. But it doesn't mean she cheated. Do you understand what I'm telling you?
No.
I don't. Lindsay let out a sigh, heavy with a resignation that said I knew you wouldn't get it. Jia, have you ever stopped to wonder why Soo-won won't tell you who that person is? Because she's guilty.
No.
She shook her head. She won't tell you, because if you find out, you'll hate yourself. Hate myself?
Yes.
Because you know that person. And you knew her before you ever met Soo-won. My brain started spinning. I knew that person. Knew her before Soo-won. That meant this person had been in my life before my marriage. A college classmate? A coworker? A friend? A relative? You've known Soo-won for 11 years, right? Lindsay said. That woman? You've known her for 14. 14 years. I could count the people I'd known that long on one hand. Childhood friends. College roommates. An ex-girlfriend. An ex-girlfriend. The word detonated in my skull like a landmine. Lindsay saw the recognition hit my face. Her mouth curved slightly. You figured it out? Impossible, I said. Soo-won would never go to a hotel with my ex-girlfriend.
Why not?
Because Soo-won isn't. I stopped mid-sentence. Because I suddenly realized I didn't know whether Soo-won was into women or not. I'd never asked about her sexual orientation. We were married. She'd married me. That meant she was at least attracted to men. But that didn't mean she wasn't also attracted to women. Soo-won is bisexual. Lindsay spoke the thought that had just crystallized in my head. She never told you, did she? I shook my head. Of course she didn't. Lindsay's tone sharpened. Because she married you.
She thought all of that was in the past.
But some things don't stay in the past. And some people don't let go.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking, Lindsay said, her eyes locked onto mine, about your college sweetheart. Zhou Niantong.
5.
That name hit me like a blade. Not because it was sharp. Because it was rusted. Rusted so badly it took me 3 full seconds to remember who she was. Zhou Niantong. Chinese literature department. We'd met through a student club. Dated for less than a year. She went abroad. Didn't even properly break up with me. Just vanished. It took me a long time to get over her. Then I met Soo-won. We got married. All of that got buried in the deepest layer of my memory. Buried so deep I'd almost forgotten she ever existed. Zhou Niantong. I spoke the name aloud and felt my lips go dry. She's back in the country? She's been back for 3 years. And she's been in contact with Soo-won the whole time. Impossible. Soo-won never mentioned her. Of course she didn't. Do you know what Zhou Niantong does for a living? She's a psychological counselor. Soo-won started seeing her for therapy 3 years ago. At first, it was legitimate. Soo-won was dealing with insomnia, anxiety, emotional instability. Do you remember that period?
I did.
3 years ago, Soo-won had gone through a stretch where she wasn't herself. I'd assumed it was work stress. I bought her melatonin and told her to go to bed earlier. She took it for a few days, said it didn't help. I didn't push further. And then, I asked. And then Jo Nyun-tong crossed a line. Lin Zi's voice went cold. She exploited the therapeutic relationship. She developed an intimate relationship with Soo-won that went far beyond the boundaries of counselor and client. That's not an affair. That's sexual exploitation. Legally, a therapist engaging in an intimate relationship with a client is a severe violation of professional ethics. In many countries, it's a crime. The coffee arrived. I didn't touch it. My hands were on the table. My fingertips were ice cold. You're saying Jo Nyun-tong used the guise of therapy to get close to Soo-won, and then slept with her. Lin Zi finished the sentence for me.
Yes.
How do you know all this? Because I'm Soo-won's best friend. She said this with a flicker in her eyes. She tells me everything. But this time, she didn't come to me on her own. I noticed something was off and forced it out of her. You forced it out of her, and then took that photo?
Yes.
Why take a photo? Because I needed evidence. Jo Nyun-tong is smart. She doesn't leave traces. Without proof, she could spin the whole thing and make Soo-won look like a liar. Then why didn't you go to the police? Lin Zi looked at me like I was an idiot. The police? You want Soo-won to go to the police and report that a woman manipulated her into bed? Jia, wake up. Do you know how society handles something like this? Everyone will say, you're a married woman, you went to a hotel with someone else, and now you're claiming you were coerced? What about your husband? She paused. Including you. What was your first reaction when you heard this? Not anger. Disgust. Am I right? I didn't answer. Because she was right. When she told me that Jo Nyun-tong had exploited a therapeutic relationship to get close to Soo-won, the first thought that had flashed through my head wasn't Jo Nyun-tong is a monster. It was how could Soo-won let herself get into this situation? I was blaming the victim. That realization turned my stomach. The photo you sent me, I said, my voice rough. You took it? I took it. You were in the room?
Yes.
Did Soo-won know you took it?
No.
She'd been drinking that night. Jo Nyun-tong kept pouring her wine, one glass after another. By the time I got there, Soo-won was already half drunk. Jo Nyun-tong had her arm around her. I said I was taking Soo-won home. Jo Nyun-tong refused. Said Soo-won needed to rest. I excused myself to use the bathroom and took a few photos. If you had the photos, why didn't you send them to me right away? Because I had to confirm something first. Confirm what? Lin Zi lifted her coffee, took a sip, and set the cup down. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Something like hesitation. Something like resolve. Jo Nyun-tong isn't just doing this to Soo-won. She has other clients. At least 3. She's running some kind of, I don't even know what to call it, a mind control operation. She targets women in unhappy marriages, women who are emotionally fragile. She builds a dependency. And then what? And then she gets them to do things for her.
Like what?
Like, Lin Zi's voice dropped to barely a whisper, having your wife take out a high-value accidental death insurance policy on you. Time stopped. The noise of the espresso machine, the chatter, the background music, all of it receded into a distant hum, leaving only that sentence looping in my brain. Accidental death insurance. High value. This past March, Lin Zi said, Soo-won took out a policy behind her back. 5 million yuan. She's the beneficiary. Guess who the agent was? I shook my head. Jo Nyun-tong.
She's not just a therapist.
She's also a licensed insurance agent. She blends both roles together. First, gain their trust. Then, build dependency. Then sell the product. Soo-won's annual premium on that policy is 38,000 yuan. On a normal salary, she can't afford that. But she still bought it. Do you know why? I shook my head again. Because Jo Nyun-tong told her it was for the safety of your family. She said Jia works a high-pressure job. If something happened to you, what would happen to Soo-won? Buying insurance is putting a safety net under your home. Soo-won believed her. She trusted Jo Nyun-tong so completely she gave her all her account passwords. My phone rang.
Suwon.
I didn't answer. Lindsay watched the name flashing on the screen, a barely perceptible curve at the edge of her lips. Pick it up. Hear what she has to say. I answered. Jia, are you with Lindsay right now? Suwon's voice was breathless, frantic, on the verge of tears. Yes. Listen to me. Every single word she tells you, you treat it as a lie. She's lying to you. She's been lying the whole time. What is she lying about? About Zhou Niantong. Suwon was speaking so fast it sounded like someone was chasing her. She's telling you Zhou Niantong is my ex-girlfriend, right? She's telling you Zhou Niantong used her position as a therapist to manipulate me, right? It's all a lie. Zhou Niantong was never my therapist. Lindsay is the one who... The line went dead. I called back. Her phone was off. I stared at the call failed message on the screen and looked up at Lindsay. She was looking right back at me, her expression perfectly calm. Too calm for someone who'd just been called a liar. Suwon says you're lying to me, I said. Of course she'd say that. Lindsay smiled faintly. Because she's terrified you'll find out the truth. And what is the truth? The truth is, Suwon never went to Zhou Niantong for therapy. Zhou Niantong is her secret lover. They've been together for 2 years. That insurance policy? Zhou Niantong didn't sell it to her. Suwon went to Zhou Niantong and asked to buy it. The beneficiary is Suwon herself. But the designated successor on the policy? That's Zhou Niantong. What does that mean? It means, Lindsay said, each word landing like a hammer blow, that if you die, the 5 million goes to Suwon first. And then Suwon transfers the money to Zhou Niantong. I stood up. The chair tipped backward and slammed against the floor. Every person in the coffee shop turned to stare. I ignored them all. Lindsay stood up too and grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Do you believe me now? I told you. You do something stupid. Killing both of them. Is that worth it? I didn't say I was going to kill anyone. Your face said it. I shook off her hand and walked toward the door. As I reached the entrance, Lindsay's voice followed me from behind. Think about it, Jia. How long has Suwon been lying to you? 2 years. 2 years she's been with someone else, and every night she crawled into bed next to you. Go home. Feel under your pillow. See if you find a strand of hair that doesn't belong to you. I didn't stop walking. The coffee shop door swung shut behind me. The noise of the street rushed in. Cars. Voices. Wind rustling the leaves. I stood on the curb, and the whole world seemed to slow down, slow enough that I could trace the arc of every leaf falling from the trees. My phone buzzed again. Not Suwon. Not Lindsay. A text from an unknown number. Jia, this is Zhou Niantong. Tonight, 8 o'clock. The old place. Come alone. The old place. The food street near the university, where we used to go all the time. She'd be waiting. 6. I didn't want to go. But if I didn't, I'd never know the truth. From 4 in the afternoon until 7, I drove in circles around the city. No destination. Just driving. South side to north side. Ring roads to highways. One red light after another. The steering wheel was in my hands. My thoughts were somewhere else entirely. Suwon had been married to me for 6 years. Every morning we'd shared. Every dinner. Every fight and every reconciliation. Every moment I'd believed was real. All of it was now coated in a layer of ash. Not false. But not true either. If Lindsay was telling the truth, Suwon and Zhou Niantong had been together for 2 years. In those 2 years, how many times had Suwon said I love you to me? Were those words meant for me? Or was she just practicing them for someone else? If Suwon was telling the truth, if Lindsay was the liar and Zhou Niantong was the real predator, then why hadn't Suwon just told me who Zhou Niantong was? Why did she need a week? 2 versions. 2 women. 2 truths. I could only go to the third woman for answers. At 7:40, I parked in the lot outside the old food street. I'd been here countless times, but rarely since graduation. Most of the storefronts had changed. The Malatang place we used to haunt was gone, replaced by a bubble tea shop. But the old place was still there. That barbecue joint. Small storefront. 6 tables inside. The owner had changed twice, but the sign hadn't. When I pushed open the door, Zhou Yintang was already seated at the innermost table. She was thinner than she'd been in college. Her hair was longer. Her features were the same, delicate, but with a kind of cool distance that was hard to describe. She wore a dark gray thin sweater. No makeup. No jewelry. She looked like an ordinary office worker off the clock. The table was already laid with food.
Chives.
Skewers. Chicken wings. Oysters. All my favorites from back in college. She remembered. Sit, she said, lifting her chin.
Don't just stand there.
I sat down across from this woman I hadn't seen in 14 years. Her face had been a blur in my memory for so long, and now that it was sharp again, it felt more foreign than familiar. What do you want? I asked. Eat something first. She pushed a skewer of lamb toward me. You probably haven't had dinner. I'm not hungry. Whether you're hungry or not isn't up to you. Your stomach gets a vote.
Eat.
Then we'll talk. I didn't move. Zhou Yintang looked at me and suddenly smiled. That smile was exactly the same as the one from college. The corner of her mouth tilting up just slightly. A faint line at the corner of her eye. The expression that said, I knew you'd be like this.
You haven't changed, she said.
You still have to know what's going on before you'll do anything. You haven't changed either. You still have to circle around 10 times before you get to the point. She laughed, picked up a skewer of chives, bit off a piece, and chewed slowly. She swallowed, took a sip of water, and then finally spoke. What did Lindsay tell you? She said you and Suwon have been together for 2 years. She said you used your position as a therapist to manipulate Suwon. She said you got Suwon to buy an insurance policy with herself as beneficiary and you as the designated successor. So it's all true? Zhou Yintang set down the skewer and looked at me. It's all true, but you've got one key thing wrong.
What?
I didn't go after Suwon. Suwon came after me. What do you mean? 2 years ago, Suwon found me through Lindsay. She said she needed therapy. She had severe anxiety and depression, but she'd never told you because she was afraid of worrying you. I did 6 months of counseling with her. It worked. Her condition stabilized. Then she approached me on her own and said she wanted to develop a personal relationship. And you agreed?
No.
I told her it was against professional ethics. A therapist can't have an intimate relationship with a client. She said she was better now, that she didn't need therapy anymore, and we could just get to know each other as friends. And then she started pursuing me. The words hit me like a physical blow. Suwon pursued you?
Yes.
Sent me flowers. Wrote me letters. Asked me out to dinner. I turned her down 3 times. The 4th time, I wavered. Zhou Yintang's tone was utterly calm as she said this. So calm it felt like she was discussing someone else's life. Jia, do you know what kind of person Suwon is? When she sets her mind on something, she doesn't stop until she gets it. When she wants a person, she'll use every method available to have them. So she got you? She got me. We were together. For how long? Until now. Exactly 1.5 years. 1.5 years. Not 2 years. Lindsay had said 2. Zhou Yintang said 1.5 years. A 6-month gap. That half year was probably the stretch when Suwon had been in actual therapy. And the insurance policy? I asked. She came to me on her own to buy it. I switched careers to insurance sales last year. She said she wanted to support my work. The policy is for 5 million. Beneficiary is herself. That's standard. As for the designated successor, there's no such thing. Insurance policies have beneficiaries, not designated successors. Lindsay was lying? Every word Lindsay said was edited. Zhou Yintang's gaze didn't waver. She told you the version she wanted you to believe, not the truth. Then what is the truth? Zhou Yintang looked at me, and in her eyes was something deep and unreadable. It looked like pity. It looked like resignation. The truth is, Lindsay is in love with Suwon. I went still. How long has she been in love with her? Since college. They were classmates. Lived on the same dorm floor. Lindsay had a crush on Suwon for 4 solid years and never said a word. Then Suwon met you. Got together with you. Lindsay backed off. But she never let go. So she sent me that photo.
She wants you to divorce, Suwon.
She figured if your marriage fell apart, she'd finally have her chance. The person in that photo is you? Zhou Niantong nodded. It was my birthday. Suwon booked the hotel for me. We had some wine. Lindsay called out of nowhere and said she was coming over. Suwon didn't feel right turning her away. She showed up with a strange look on her face. I only found out later she'd taken photos. Then why didn't you make her delete them?
I tried.
She said she'd deleted them. I believed her. It wasn't until today, when Suwon told me you'd forwarded the photo to your mother-in-law, that I realized she'd never deleted them at all. Zhou Niantong fell silent for a moment after saying all this. Then she said something I will never forget.
Jia.
There's something I need to tell you. I shouldn't say it, but you're already caught up in this. You need to know.
What is it?
Do you know why Suwon pursued me?
Why?
Because before me, she was looking for the same thing in other people. She's always been searching for someone who makes her feel completely understood. You think your marriage was happy, but Suwon has a hollow place inside her. She never told you about it, and you never noticed. What hollow place? She has no sense of security. Not about the marriage, about her own worth. She needs constant proof that she's needed, that she's wanted, that she's loved. When she was with you, you thought she was fine, right? But she wasn't fine. Every night, she couldn't sleep. You were asleep. Every time she was breaking down, you were at work. Every time she wanted to talk to you, you were playing video games. I didn't. You did. You just didn't know. Because Suwon never let you see that side of her. She hid it too well. So well that everyone believed she was thriving. But I know she wasn't. Because I'm the only one who's ever taken her call at 3 in the morning when she was sobbing. The skewer of lamb in my hand had gone cold. The grease had congealed on the surface. Pale and white. Revolting. So you're with her because you pity her? It's not pity. Zhou Niantong's voice was steady. It's because I need her too. Jia, relationships in this world aren't as black and white as you think. I love Suwon.
Suwon loves me.
But she also loves you. She loves two people at the same time. That's not a sin. She just couldn't choose. She had a choice. She had one. She chose not to choose. She didn't want to hurt you, and she didn't want to hurt me. So she kept dragging it out. Until Lindsay stepped in and made the choice for her. I set the skewer down and stood up. Zhou Niantong didn't try to stop me. She said, I know you're going to walk out. But before you go, I'm going to tell you one last thing. The baby Suwon is carrying. It's yours. I froze. What baby? You didn't know? Suwon is pregnant. 6 weeks. She was planning to tell you tonight. But Lindsay got to you first. My hands started shaking. Not from joy. From rage. She's pregnant, and she went to a hotel with you? It was my birthday. We had a glass of wine. Nothing happened. The photo Lindsay took makes it look like we were sleeping together, but Suwon was just lying next to me talking. She was fully dressed. Under the blanket, she was still wearing her jeans. I didn't believe her.
But I wanted to.
I looked into Zhou Niantong's eyes, searching for some flicker of deception. She didn't flinch. She let me look. Her gaze was so clear it terrified me.
Jia, she said at last. If you don't believe me, believe Suwon.
Go find her. Ask her. She owes you an answer. When I walked out of that barbecue joint, the sky was fully dark. The food street blazed with lights, thick with noise and crowds. I moved through all those cheerful strangers and felt like they belonged to a different world, one that had nothing to do with me anymore.
My phone rang.
My mother-in-law. Jia. Come back now. Something's happened to Suwon. 7. I made the drive in 15 minutes. Ran 3 red lights. When I burst through the door, the living room was packed with people. My mother-in-law sat on the couch, sobbing. My father-in-law stood on the balcony, smoking. Lei was on the phone. Suwon's 2 older brothers had shown up too. They were huddled around the coffee table, arguing about something. Suwon wasn't there. Where is she? I demanded. My mother-in-law lifted her head. Her eyes were swollen like peaches. She went to the hospital.
Why?
She said her stomach hurt. She was bleeding. The baby. My brain detonated. Which hospital? City Maternal and Child Health Hospital. Sue Lei drove her. They just left. I spun around and ran. My mother-in-law shouted something after me. I didn't catch it. The hospital was on the east side of the city. A 20-minute drive. I floored it the whole way, weaving through traffic. At one point, I nearly sideswiped a bus. The driver rolled down his window and cursed me out. I didn't respond. When I reached the hospital, Sue Lei was standing at the entrance to the obstetrics wing. He crushed out his cigarette the moment he saw me.
"She's inside," he said.
"The doctors say it's a threatened miscarriage. What caused it?" Sue Lei looked at me, and there was something in his eyes I couldn't read. The doctor said it could be extreme emotional distress. Some kind of shock. What shock? How the hell should I know? He tossed the cigarette butt into the trash can. "You're asking me? I want to ask you. What message did you send my sister?" "I didn't send her anything." Then she got a phone call, started crying, and the next thing, she's clutching her stomach, screaming in pain. "So what was it?" "A phone call." "Who called her?" Suwon's phone had been off all day. She couldn't have gotten a call, unless she'd turned it back on. I pulled out my phone and dialed her number. Off. I dialed Lindsay. Off. I dialed Zhonyantong. It connected. "Suwon's in the hospital," I said. "I know. Did you call her?"
"No."
"Then who did?" Zhonyantong was silent for 3 beats. "Lindsay." She called Suwon and told her everything we talked about. She told Suwon I'd told you all of it, including about the baby. Why would she do that? Because she wants Suwon to break. Zhonyantong's voice was eerily calm. "Lindsay's plan was never just to make you divorce Suwon. Her plan was to make Suwon lose everything. Her marriage, her child, her family, all of it. She wants Suwon at rock bottom so she can swoop in as the savior. She's insane. She's not insane. She's perfectly lucid. And lucid malice is far more terrifying than madness." I hung up. The doors to the procedure room stayed shut. The light above them stayed on. Nurses pushed medication carts down the hallway, the wheels squeaking against the floor. Sue Lei leaned against the wall, arms crossed, staring at the ceiling.
"Jia," he said.
"I'm going to ask you one question, and I want an honest answer."
"Ask."
"Do you love my sister?" I'd answered that question so many times. At our wedding. On every anniversary. In the middle of all those late nights when she'd roll over and whisper, "Do you love me?" But now, when Sue Lei asked it, the question felt impossibly heavy. Because I wasn't sure anymore. Not that I didn't love her. I wasn't sure what love even meant anymore. Was it squeezing out her toothpaste every morning? Was it sitting next to her through whatever mindless variety show she had on? Was it saying goodnight back when she said goodnight? Or was it standing beside her when she was at her most broken, no matter what she'd done? I thought of Suwon crouching in front of me in the early hours of the morning, cupping my face in her hands, saying just give me a little more time. She'd already had our child inside her then. She wanted 1 week to sort everything out, and then she'd tell me the whole truth. Lindsay hadn't given her that week.
"Yeah," I said.
"I love her." Sue Lei looked at me and nodded. He didn't say anything else. The hallway was quiet. Quiet enough to hear a newborn crying somewhere deeper in the obstetrics ward. The cry was sharp and high, like a tiny protest against being brought into this world. 40 minutes later, the doors opened. The doctor came out and pulled down her mask. "The baby is safe, but the mother needs complete bed rest. No more emotional shocks." The weight that had been crushing my chest finally lifted. When they wheeled Suwon out, her face was white as paper. Her eyes were closed, and 4 dripped into a needle taped to the back of her hand. She heard my footsteps and opened her eyes. Tears flooded out instantly. "Jia."
"Don't talk."
I took her hand. It was freezing. "Just rest." "Is the baby still there?" "Yes." She broke down sobbing. Not the loud, wailing kind of cry. The kind where you bury your face in the pillow and your shoulders heave with silent, devastating sobs. I had never seen her cry like that. Not even on our wedding day, when her father had wept like a child saying goodbye to his little girl, and she'd cried then too. But nothing like this. Sule walked over, squeezed my shoulder, and led everyone else out. The hospital room held only Soo-won and me. I sat beside the bed, holding her hand, waiting for her to cry herself out. She cried for a long time, until the tears ran dry and all that was left were ragged, hiccuping breaths.
Jia.
Her voice was hoarse.
I'm so sorry. Don't talk yet. The doctor said you need to rest. No. I need to say this now.
She gripped my hand hard, her nails digging in. I'm afraid if I don't say it now, I won't get another chance. You're going to be fine. That's not what I mean. She looked at me, and in her eyes was a resolve I had never seen before. I mean, I'm afraid you won't want me anymore. That sentence pierced straight into the softest part of my heart. When have I ever said I didn't want you? You never said it, but you should have. Soo-won's voice trembled. I was with someone else. I lied to you for 2 years. Every night I lay in bed next to you, and my heart was somewhere else. You should hate me.
You should divorce me.
You should take everything and leave me with nothing. Then why did you do it? Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid you'd leave me. Soo-won's tears welled up again. Afraid that if you knew who I really was, you'd be disgusted. So I kept looking for someone. Someone who could make me feel like I wasn't as awful as I thought I was. I thought I found that. But then I realized every person I turned to is just another reminder of how broken I am. Jeon Yintong wasn't your therapist?
No.
She was just someone I knew. I stayed with her because she made me feel needed. But eventually I understood that the way she needed me and the way you need me are completely different. You needed a whole Soo-won. She only needed a broken one. And Lindsay? Lindsay. Soo-won closed her eyes. Tears slid down from the corners. Lindsay was the only person who knew all my secrets. I thought she was my best friend, but she wasn't. She wanted me to shatter completely, so she could put me back together in her own image. She wanted to control you.
Yes.
She hated you because she thought you stole me away. But what really made her hate you was that you made me whole. She spent 11 years trying to mold me into what she wanted and failed. You did it in 2 years just by loving me. You made me feel normal. You're normal. I'm not, yeah. I'm really not. Soo-won opened her eyes and looked at me. You've never seen me at 3 in the morning, sitting on the balcony, unable to sleep. You've never seen me crying in front of the mirror because I thought I was too ugly for anyone to want. You've never seen me delete all my chat histories, terrified you'd find out I'd been flirting with someone else. I hid all of that. Hid it so well I almost convinced myself I was fine. But you don't want to hide anymore? I don't want to hide anymore. Because I'm exhausted. And because I realize that if I can't even let you see who I really am, then my love for you is fake too. She finished speaking, and the hospital room fell utterly silent. The heart monitor beeped its steady rhythm. Outside the window, the sky was fully dark. The city's lights filtered through the curtains, casting vague patterns on the ceiling. I held Soo-won's hand. It was cold, but I could feel the warmth in her fingertips.
Soo-won.
I want to believe every word you just said to me. She cried harder. But I need you to tell me one thing. That night in the hotel, you and Jeon Yintong, did anything happen?
Soo-won looked at me.
Her lips were trembling.
No.
I swear to you, nothing happened.
Okay.
You believe me? I believe you. She suddenly sat up, ignoring the 4 needle in her hand, and threw her arms around me, burying her face in my neck. She cried like a child. She said a lot of things, some of which I caught, some of which I didn't. But I heard one thing clearly. Jia, I will never lie to you again. I swear it. Never again. I held her and said nothing. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Sule pushed the door open, carrying a plastic bag. Sis, I got you some kanji. He saw us holding each other, froze for a second, then set the kanji on the nightstand and turned to leave. On his way out, he said, I'm leaving the door open. Yell if you need me.
8.
Soo-won stayed in the hospital for 3 days. Every one of those days, my mother-in-law came. My father-in-law didn't, but he sent a message through her. Tell that brat to take good care of my daughter. Sule came every evening with dinner. The two older brothers showed up on the weekend, each pressing a red envelope into Soo-won's hand. For the baby, they said. I didn't tell them the truth. Neither did Soo-won. By unspoken agreement, we chose silence. Because some truths, once spoken, wouldn't just hurt me. They'd hurt everyone. On the afternoon of the third day, Soo-won was discharged. I drove her home. The whole way, she stared out the window without speaking. As we passed the South City Starbucks, she suddenly said, Lindsay sent me a message. What did she say? She said she's at the airport. She's leaving the country. Where to? She didn't say. Just that she's not coming back. Soo-won fell quiet for a long moment after that. Then she said something that surprised me. I hate her, but part of me feels sorry for her.
Why?
Because she doesn't know how to love someone. She pours everything she has into loving a person, and the only reaction she ever gets back is running away. She loved too hard, turned love into hate, then convinced herself the hate was still love. I kept my hands on the wheel and didn't answer. When we got home, the sky was already dark. I opened the door. The entryway light was still on. The living room looked exactly the way we'd left it 3 days ago. The glass of water on the coffee table was still there. Soo-won's wedding photo was still there. The sticky note I'd peeled off and stuck back on the fridge was still there. Soo-won changed into slippers, walked into the living room, and saw the glass of water. She picked it up and poured it out. She rinsed the glass, put it back in the kitchen, and then came to stand in front of me. Jia, I want to tell you something. Go ahead. I made an appointment with a psychologist. Not Jo Nyun-tong. A real one. A licensed one. I want to deal with my problems. I don't want to hide anymore. I'll go with you.
No.
I'll go by myself. This is my problem. I have to face it alone. I looked at Soo-won and felt that something about her had shifted in the last 3 days. Not her appearance. Her eyes. That fragile, about-to-shatter quality that had always hovered in her gaze was gone. In its place was something steady, quiet, something that made me feel, for the first time in a long time, at peace. Okay, tell me the time, and I'll drive you. Soo-won nodded. We both slept badly that night. She woke up twice. Each time, she called my name. I answered, and she rolled over and went back to sleep. The third time she woke, she didn't call for me. She slipped quietly out of bed and went to the balcony. I followed her. She stood at the railing, wearing my old t-shirt, her hair loose, looking down at the street below. 2 a.m. The city was quiet. The street lamps glowed. A car passed now and then, its headlights cutting a brief arc in the distance. Can't sleep? I walked over and stood beside her.
What are you thinking about?
She turned her head to look at me.
I was thinking about something.
That night at the barbecue place. What Jo Nyun-tong told you. One part of it was a lie. My heart tightened. Which part? She said nothing happened between us that night. The night breeze blew past, cold against my skin.
So? I asked. Soo-won looked at me.
Her eyes were full of tears, but they didn't fall. So, I need to tell you the truth. The whole truth. That night in the hotel, Jo Nyun-tong and I, something did happen. The photo Lindsay took was taken afterward. I didn't admit it before, because I didn't want you to hate Jo Nyun-tong. What she did was wrong. But it wasn't just her. I was wrong too. The wind picked up, blowing strands of her hair across her face. She didn't brush them away. She just stood there, half-hidden.
Jia.
I gave you a false truth because you just found out about the baby. I was terrified you couldn't handle it.
But I've thought about it.
If we're really going to start over, I can't start over with a lie. I didn't speak. Not from anger. I just didn't know what to say. Do you still want to forgive me? Her voice shook. I looked at her for a long time. The streetlight cast its glow across her face. She'd lost weight. Dark circles ringed her eyes. She looked like something inside her had been hollowed out. But she stood there, not hiding, not looking away, just waiting for my answer.
Soo-won.
Do you know why I followed you out to the balcony? She shook her head. Because I couldn't sleep either. I was lying in bed thinking about something. If I forgive you, does that mean I've betrayed myself? And then I figured it out. Forgiving you isn't about betraying myself or not. It's about whether I still want to keep living this life with you.
Do you?
I do. Suwon's tears finally spilled over. This time she didn't hold back, didn't suppress anything. She just stood there on the balcony, in the 2 a.m. wind, and cried like a child. I reached out and pulled her into my arms. Her body was cold. Cold as if she'd just been pulled from water. But her arms around me were tight. So tight, I could feel the warmth of her fingertips slowly seeping back.
Jia.
She pressed her face into my chest, her voice muffled. I swear this is the last time. I will never lie to you again. Never hide anything from you again. Never make you carry everything alone again. I stroked her hair. I didn't say anything. Because some things don't need to be said. Some people don't need promises. They spend every remaining day proving it. A car passed below, its headlights sweeping across the balcony and illuminating our overlapping shadows. Just for an instant. Then everything sank back into the dark.
9.
A month and a half later. Suwon was showing now. You could tell when she wore loose clothes. Her appetite had come roaring back. She wanted a late-night snack every single evening. I'd learned to make soup. The results were mediocre at best, but she drained the bowl every time. My mother-in-law came every weekend, arms loaded with food, stuffing the refrigerator to bursting. Sule dropped by occasionally to mooch a meal. The first words out of his mouth every time he walked in were, "What's for dinner today?" My father-in-law still hadn't come, but he sent a letter every week through my mother-in-law. The letters were full of nonsense. Vegetable prices went up. The neighbor's dog had puppies. They changed the host on that talk show. Suwon read every single one and smiled every single time. On the surface, everything was getting better. But I knew some things would never go back to the way they were. Trust, for example. Not a lack of trust. Just the loss of that state where trust wasn't even a question. Before, if Suwon said I'm having dinner with a friend, I didn't think twice. Now, if she said the same thing, I'd reflexively ask which friend. Not from suspicion. From wanting to know. I wanted to know every corner of her life. Not to monitor her.
To be part of it.
Suwon understood this. She never complained. In fact, she volunteered her schedule. She changed her phone passcode from our wedding date to my birthday.
You can look anytime, she said.
I have nothing to hide from you. I never looked. Not because I didn't want to. Because I felt like if we ever reached the point where I needed to check her phone, the relationship would already be over. Lindsay had sent no further messages after she left. All her social media accounts had been deleted.
Her phone number had changed.
She was like a gust of wind that had blown through, appending everything, and then vanished without a trace. Sometimes I wondered what kind of person she really was. A friend? An enemy? A destroyer? Or, in some twisted way, a savior? If she hadn't sent that photo, I might never have known what Suwon was hiding inside. Suwon would have kept pretending everything was normal. I would have kept being a husband who knew nothing. We would have lived out our lives in a counterfeit happiness. That happiness would have been fake. But at least it wouldn't have hurt.
And now?
Now I knew all of it. The wound had been ripped open. Blood had poured out. But when the wound was torn open, the infection inside had been cleaned out too. It would heal again. It might leave a scar, but it wouldn't fester anymore. I didn't know which was better. But I knew this. The life I was living now was real. It hurt sometimes, but it was real. One afternoon, Suwon was napping on the couch. I sat on the balcony, smoking. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered.
Jia.
It was Zhou Yintang's voice.
I need to talk to you.
About what? About Suwon's insurance policy. She didn't come to me to buy it. I asked her to. And the beneficiary wasn't herself, like I told you before.
It's you.
I went still. The beneficiary is me? Yes. She said if anything happened to her, she wanted the money to go to you and the child. I had her write your name. Then why did you tell me it was her name? Because I was still protecting her back then. I wanted you to think she didn't love you that much. I wanted you to hate her, to leave her. But you stayed. You didn't walk away. Why did you want me to leave? Because I wanted her all to myself. Zhou Yintang fell silent for a long time after that.
Jia.
The reason I called you today is to tell you one thing. I'm bowing out. I booked a flight for next month. To Canada. I won't be coming back. Suwon is yours. She was always yours. I was the one who wedged myself in. Now I'm giving her back. She's not something you give or take back, I said.
She's a human being.
You're right.
She's a human being.
So she has the right to choose who she's with. She chose you. I respect her choice. You called just to say this? One more thing. Zhou Niantong paused. Suwon's insurance policy. I canceled it. The money will be refunded to her account. I'm leaving the insurance business. For good. Why cancel it? Because it was the only way I had left to control her. And now I don't need it anymore. The line went dead. I sat on the balcony, phone in hand, looking down at the street below. The sunlight was warm and the autumn breeze was cool against my face. In the distance, someone was walking a dog. Kids were racing around on scooters. The world looked like a picture of perfect, peaceful contentment. Suwon shuffled out of the living room, rubbing her eyes.
Who was that?
Wrong number.
Oh.
She came over and leaned against my shoulder. You smell like smoke. I'll go shower. Don't. She nuzzled her face into my neck. I like the smell of smoke on you. It smells like my dad. I cracked a smile. Since when did you start calling me daddy? She laughed and smacked my arm. Don't be gross. Then she settled against me and fell quiet. The breeze came again, lifting strands of her hair against my cheek. It tickled.
Jia.
Her voice was soft.
I've thought of a name for the baby.
What is it? If it's a boy, Chenji Gue. Ji as in knowing. Gue as in returning. Why Ji Gue? Because her voice caught slightly. Because you knew all the truth. And you still chose to come back. I didn't answer. I rested my hand over hers. The sunlight fell across our intertwined fingers. It was warm. If I hadn't received that photo that night, what would I be doing right now? Probably working late. Probably at some business dinner. Probably scrolling through my phone on the couch. Probably watching TV. Anything but sitting here with Suwon in the sun, feeling the small, forming life inside her. Some things have to shatter before they can be put back together. The pieces don't fit the same way, but they fit stronger. Because in the places where they cracked, the light gets through. My phone buzzed again. Suwon picked it up, glanced at the screen, and handed it to me. Your mother-in-law. I answered. My mother-in-law's voice blasted through the speaker.
Jia.
Your father-in-law's coming over for dinner. Put out those cigarettes right now. He can't stand the smell. So my father-in-law was finally coming. I stubbed out the cigarette and exchanged a look with Suwon. She smiled. That smile was light.
Faint.
Nothing like the smile in that photo. It wasn't the loose, drunk smile of indulgence. It wasn't the reckless smile of the late-night hours. It was just an ordinary, warm, everyday smile. I pulled her into my arms and rested my chin on the top of her head.
Suwon. Thank you.
For what? For choosing, in the end, to tell me the truth. She didn't reply, but I felt her hand tighten around mine. And that was enough. Those questions without answers didn't need answers anymore. That past we couldn't return to didn't need returning to.